let's talk about the YouTube thing for a little bit here. What made you decide to start your own channel?
Well, I had a couple of different YouTubey kind of inspiration type people that I've been like watching comic book YouTube channels from like maybe like last August maybe, and so I had been watching them, and then I guess I just kind of decided like, well, here's the thing. So I stopped working at the comic book store that I was working at back in November, and I was really, really missing that community of people. And like, working behind the counter, I see people all the time, every day, and get to talk about comics and stuff. And I was like, I had just graduated from college in December and was feeling very like, I feel isolated, like I don't know what to do now. So I was like, you know what? I'll set up a camera and I'll talk about the comics that like I'll pick up each week, and I'll just see if anybody else feels like I do, because I just assumed there had to be other people that didn't know anybody in their own hometown or were friends with them that could talk about it without being like, oh, you and your comic books, you nerd. So like I just wanted to kind of create like a safe, happy place, if people want to talk about comic books, they can talk about comic books. So that's kind of how that started, and I started that like in late January or early February. Just kind of threw it out into the internet.
Wow, awesome. Yeah, that's pretty much what inspired me too. Where I live in a really small town. I don't know anybody personally who is really big into comic books, and I drive my wife up the wall telling her about stuff because she's not into comics at all. She likes some of the superhero movies and things because of the themes and whatnot that's in there. But
Definitely.
for the most part, it's like, well, I don't really have anybody I can talk to about this who understands why I'm, into this so much. So I decided to start the channel. And just like you, I'd been watching some channels for a while, saw how they were doing things and the community they built. And I was like, I like this, but I want to go deeper than just the, comic book reviews, because everybody's doing comic book reviews. I want to do something a little different. And so that's why, I started the channel. I did same thing. We started last year, but then I had to go on break for like 6 or 8 months because of holiday and all that stuff, and just recently got back into it. So yeah, it's amazing how much fun it can be to throw those ideas out there and finally have other people who are like you that you can talk to about them.
Yeah, and I like what you said about the community too, because like I think because all those like really big YouTubers now have established this really awesome, like very unique, like it almost seems very like small, but it's not. I mean, it's actually kind of large, of like people who are making their own videos and then people who are just watching them as well. You start to see like the same names kind of pop up on different videos, and it's really cool. It's a really cool community of online, and that's what I think it should be. It's like a little, if you don't have anybody to talk to, like go online, there's someone there.
Yeah, that's what I think the internet has really revolutionized, how we communicate and how we connect to each other. And I think that it's really awesome that now, me being in the Midwest or whatever, I can connect to somebody in California, Florida, Texas, all these different places, and kind of form that friendship even at a distance, where we have that thing in common where we talk about comic books and things. Whereas before we were isolated, away from each other.
Right.
The only way you could really find anybody else was if you had a comic book shop and you happened to be there at the same time as someone else, which my town has a comic book shop, but nobody's ever in there the same time I am.
Right.
So I'm like, am I the only one who shops here? Like, how do you guys stay open? I don't ever see anybody else here. Like, I don't know. So the internet really has, just changed everything and allowed us to do that. And I think it's awesome. Do you get nervous putting yourself out there?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think I've always done theater since I was little, and I think that kind of that performing aspect of it, like if I just kind of see it as, instead of me being like, here's all my likes and dislikes, internet, tell me what you think about me, like instead of doing it that way, and I think of it more like I'm putting out something that could be entertaining. I don't know. I think that's the only way I can do it. If I think too hard about it, I get too freaked out. But I mean, so far, I mean, reception has been really, really good. I was slightly scared, and I know I was telling my parents about it before, and they're like, "You sure you want to put yourself online? That's kind of," and I'm like, "Yeah, that is kind of scary, but but I mean, it's going well so far.
Right. Yeah, that's one of the things that I liked about your videos was you had your own personality in there. Like I could tell you were being genuine, and like some people they put forth a kind of a fake persona. Not so much.
Mhm.
I haven't seen that too much in the comic book world on YouTube, but
Right.
other kinds of channels and whatnot, you could tell that's not really how that person is, and it's kind of cool. Like okay, that's a that person's character, their own little creation, so to speak.
Right.
But at the same time, getting something where it's authentic in that person's perspective and they're an interesting person, that's really cool, and it's not something you see too often. So I was like, hey, I really like this. I wish more people would do something like this where it's just them being genuine and getting into their little niche or whatever it is that
Yeah.
they're into. So I appreciated that.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot of it is like a conversation that you have to kind of imagine it because like you said, like there are a lot of YouTubers that kind of they put on a personality, but a lot of like their content is just telling people things. Like they're like, here's the top 10 list of Batman comics or something like that, but they're not really talking back and forth. And I think that's really important in trying to establish a friendship. And then in addition to that, I mean, I don't script my videos because I feel like it would feel kind of somewhat disingenuine, like, and I get nervous sometimes because I'm like, I'm really worried people are gonna be like, why is she so weird, or she's trying to be too weird or something like that, and I'm like, no, I'm like this, I'm just like this, but I like I said, I'm just hoping there's like at least one other person that's like, yeah, I'm a little bit weird too, so it's okay.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. See, I have a hard time, like I have to script everything out, but that's because of the nature of what I do.
Hmm.
I want to do more of that where I don't script things, but for some reason, and I've tried this several times over the past 3 days to do a video without the script and do it on camera with my face there, and I just freeze up and then like I stumble all over the place and I'm like, that is horrible.
That's why editing exists, right? Editing is
Exactly.
the best.
Yeah, so I'm gonna try to do some videos where I just at least have some notes, like some bullet points, just to
Hmm.
keep my mind from wandering too far off,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and try to do some things that way. Because in all honesty, it takes a butt ton of time to script every video, and
I
sometimes you're
can
just like,
imagine.
oh gosh, I can't do this. This is killing me. So like some stuff, I feel like depending on what you're trying to put out, you may need a script, you may not. I guess if you know your stuff well enough, you don't. Uh, but and like for your stuff, it works better without a script for sure. I think if you tried to script it, it definitely
At
wouldn't
least the
wouldn't be the
ones
same.
on, at least like the Saturday ones where I talk about each comic, because that's just kind of me being like, okay, Walking Dead came out. How do I feel about Walking Dead? Oh yeah, that's right. I remember reading it, and this is kind of more conversation flowy, brain vomit kind of thing, and brain vomit. That's pleasant. But like the ones on Wednesdays where I kind of try to keep it comic centered or comic themed, I do have more of a bullet pointed or something on my laptop up that helps me kind of, because like you said, like unless you like are an expert in whatever you're talking about, it could get a little rough, like you're going to be looking back and forth and stuff like that, so it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I know some people who like they take like one or two notes and they can sit here and talk about something just fluently, and I'm like, I envy you, but that's
Oof.
definitely not what I can do. I need to have at least a little something of guidance there to get me
Hmm.
through it. So I think that's awesome though that you don't script everything out like that. I think it's really cool that you can bring that your unique personality to the table without having to go through that. So I mean, you don't know how much time you're saving too.
I know, I can imagine. Well, I feel like I make it all up in like the time that I try to edit my videos, because I'll usually get like one long, so I don't know if you've noticed this while talking to me just now, but like I usually will get like one long spurt of thought, and then I like have to wait a second and I'm like, okay, get the next one. Okay, here's the next one. And that's when I edit those out, like in between each of those long thoughts. So I think I make up the time that I would have been writing a script in the editing because I'm also using like iMovie 9 or something like that. So I'm like, it's so old and it's so terrible and doesn't let me do anything. So like, I feel like you're saving. I'm not saving as much time as you think I am for script writing, yes, but the editing side of things takes a long time.
Yeah, I feel your pain on iMovie. That's what I was using for a long time until like about 2 weeks ago, and I upgraded to Final Cut Pro, which is great. But man, it's very similar to iMovie, but you have this whole other learning curve
Yeah,
to
that's honestly
learn
what
how
I've
to
been
do
worried about.
things.
Like, I'm getting an iMac soon because, like, I feel like I told you this before. Like, if you slightly bump my laptop, it will like reset to all of its like factory settings and stuff, and it's just really it's gonna die soon, and I don't want to lose everything on here. So I'm gonna get an iMac soon, and I feel like once I do that, I should just go ahead and get the Final Cut Pro because I've heard good things about it, but like I said, I'm kind of scared about the learning curve for it.
It's actually not too terrible. I mean, if you know how to work your way around iMovie, all the basic stuff, it's exactly the same. And then it's
Okay.
just a matter of, you get to add the layers, and you can do a lot of the fly in, fly out stuff, which is kind of like become our trademark here. Is
Mm-hmm.
doing a lot of videos with that stuff in it. So that is, you got the sky's the limit as far as all that. It's just a matter of figuring out where the buttons and stuff are, because things are a little bit different layout wise, but it's very, very similar.
Okay, I trust you.
Yeah, it was a little frustrating at first, but I got it. So where do you think your channel will be a year from now? Where would you like to see it?
Where would I like to see it? I think honestly, like even if I just stayed like at the same, I don't know. I was thinking about it, and I'm like, well, everything that I would want my channel to become really doesn't have anything to do with the subscriber number. Like, I don't want to be like, oh, I want to be at 2,000 or 3,000 or anything like that. Like, I want the content to get better, and I want to become more confident in how I present my own opinions because that's kind of something that I struggle with as far as like I'm so comic book fans can be very, very intense in their beliefs. So I tend to stick with like if something's kind of controversial, I'll stick with like the facts about it. I'll be like, yes, this is a comic, and this is when it came out, and this is who is in it. Or if I don't enjoy a comic, like I just won't talk about it or something like that. But I think I want to be able to get to a place where I'm confident enough to say, I really like this. This is why. I'm not a huge fan of this. This is why. And like we've had so many different, even just this year, so many different like social issues that come up through comic books that kind of reflect different stuff that's going on. And I'm just too scared to talk about it. And I feel like by not saying anything, like by being silent about it, I am kind of saying something about it. So I think a year from now, I'd like to kind of establish my channel as still a place where it's safe for anybody to come and share their opinions about things, but I would love for it to just continue to stay very civil and a generally positive, uplifting place.
And that is the exact struggle that I'm having as well. The whole intention of the Metacomics channel was to talk about those very things that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, I wanted to create an atmosphere where people who have differing views on the same issue can come together saying, hey, you know what, we both love comics. And even at the end of the day, if we don't agree on how this social issue should be worked out, we can at least say we're friends at the end of the day. That's just something the world sorely lacks right now.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
And so that's the thing that we're trying to do. And part of that is being comfortable in your own opinions. And it's very hard because you're right. Comic book fans can be, I mean, some of them can be downright vicious sometimes in defending their particular point of view. And it's like, I think we'd all be better off if we just ascribe to the Big Lebowski and just, like, that's your opinion, man. Like
exactly.
Just it's an opinion. You don't have to believe the way that I believe. It's okay. We're in a place where we can share our ideas freely. And as long as we're being civil to each other, nobody's going to get the ban hammer. It's like,
definitely.
as long as you conduct yourself as, a civil human being, we can have these discussions. You don't have to agree with a particular stance on a social issue, but you can at the end of the day say, I respect that other person's opinion, even though it's different from mine. A lot of people don't understand how to do that. They don't understand how to approach a topic like that. So yeah, that's the same thing that we've actually been talking about somewhat behind the scenes, especially with some of the stuff we got coming out. Like, look, there's no way that if I do Digging Deeper, I cannot comment on these things and from my point of view. But I don't want my point of view to represent the entire channel because the channel's become a community. It's not me anymore. So we're trying to figure out how to get that around there, to get that out. It's like, okay, look, my personal opinion on something when I'm doing these videos does not reflect everybody's view that works on the channel that puts out
Sure.
videos.
Yeah,
They
but
have
I think that's even better though to have the variety of different people because people come from all different places like of life experiences and even if somebody literally was raised exactly how you were, they might feel completely different about that and to have I think that represented is really important.
Yeah, so that's, I mean, I totally understand where you're coming from. And I would say just continue doing what you're doing and taking small steps, being
Yeah.
brave at little tiny steps. And eventually you'll get comfortable enough to where you're like, okay, I'm just going to say what needs to be said as far as voicing my own opinion and then try to keep other people as civil as possible, which is hard on the
It
internet.
is. It is. It's the internet. Too much, anonymous things for that.
Recently, I watched a video that you did about the all new, all different Marvel universe and
Yes. Yes.
all the different titles they got coming out once
Lots of
Secret
them.
Wars is over. Yeah, tons. It's unbelievable. I tell you, the one that killed me though was Totally Awesome Hulk. I'm
I
like,
was just thinking about that. I'm like, why is that in its title? Like, why?
exactly. Yeah, is this for 5-year-olds? Like,
It really sounds like it. It sounds like they're like, oh, we're for little kids, totally awesome. Yeah, like who approved that? Why does he need to have totally awesome in his name? Why?
yeah, and the sad part is it probably passed through multiple hands,
I
and
know.
all of those
They were
people
like, this
approved
is a
it.
great idea. I don't know.
This could not be any cooler. Like, what? Are you in like were you a 70s guy, 80s guy? Like, you
Yeah.
think this is still
Yeah.
hip?
I don't know. Yeah, oh, gosh, that's the worst. My dad always says like it's so you can always tell when you're watching like a movie for or TV show with for little kids that's written by like really old men because like the way they talk and their lingo is like that's not how kids talk. That
Yeah.
is not.
Yep, I've had that same epiphany. I'm like, I have 2 little kids. I can tell you, they speak nothing like that.
Exactly.
What I was thinking about with all this is there's a whole lot of changes being made with the
Mhm.
way Marvel is doing things. So my question for you is going to be about diversity in comics. Like not whether it should be done, but how it should be done. Because there's a lot of different ways that people take this. So some comic book publishers, they take already established characters and they either just completely revamp them and change like their skin color, their,
Mhm.
sex, whatever it might be, or they pass on the mantle to somebody who's vastly
Sure.
different, like Thor or Cap. Do you think that that's the good direction to take, that they should continue doing that? Or do you think they should start focusing on maybe creating new characters from these diverse backgrounds and kind of letting them come up on their own and testing the
Mhm.
waters with that as well? That's just something that seems to be a big topic right now, and
Right.
Marvel's doing a lot of shifting
They
over the next
are
few months with
indeed.
that. So,
Well, I definitely think the first step would probably be get some diversified writers and artists because I think like I've read a lot of comics that are written like about women but by men and they're not good because they're doing like internal like monologue and I'm like that's just not how women don't think like that. That's not how you so I think when you have to think about the first step as far as like you said like race and gender incorporating that into comics is incorporating that into the writing team first like the creative team I mean so
right.
I think that's a huge thing that I think comics are moving forward in that a little bit. I mean, I would still say like the vast majority are still kind of written just by the same type of people, which is like, I mean, just not as interesting. Like I said before, like the different life experience thing, like that's important, and I think that is the first step to diversifying comics is the creative team.
Right. And I 100% agree with that, you know, I as a man think very differently than a
Sure.
woman. I mean, there's some things I'm sure we would probably have the same thoughts on and whatever, but the internal kind of, like you're saying, like the way you think, I don't, I probably don't have the same struggles. I don't probably have the same, viewpoint necessarily from things because you have a different life experience. So it would be really hard for me to write a female character. Like I don't think that I could do very well at that because I don't have that life experience. I don't know what that's like to live life as a woman or, as a black person or, whatever. I don't have that experience. So I can't say, yeah, I'm going to write this African American character over here, like and talk about their social struggles and things. It's like, well, I don't come from that culture. I don't know that I really know that much about how they would think about certain things. So I think you really take a risk putting that kind of a character in a person's hands right off the bat. I mean, maybe later after you've tackled those big important issues, you can do that, but I don't think that would be necessarily a good thing right off the bat.